enter into one or more contracts with various community development corporations for the purpose of hiring community engagement specialists by neighborhood to improve the quality of life for residents and the city's housing stock, to enter into professional services contracts for acquisition of software and training to conduct the initiative, and to make purchases of materials, equipment, supplies, and services needed to conduct the initiative. Good morning, Director.
Good morning, Chairman.
All right, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman and committee. So I am here before you today to talk about the Community Engagement Program, also known as the Healthy Homes Program. This is the program where we have community engagement specialists that are housed at the CDCs. This legislation allows us to take what has already been budgeted and allows me to go ahead and contract with the CDCs to perform the community engagement process in the neighborhoods, and I am seeking your approval today for that.
All right, thank you, Director. Has there been any changes as relates to the program and how it's been operated or administered? Are we still by CDCs? Do we still have the same list of CDCs? I know some CDCs are not functioning as they were previously. What are we doing in those situations?
So right now we are, we'll fill the positions as we can. I don't want to speak specifically to each of the CDCs, but as we contract, so if they're eligible to contract with us this year, then we will go ahead and contract with them. Otherwise, for CDCs for areas where there are no CDCs, I have a separate plan that is outside of this funding that will help to support where we may not have CDCs or may not have strong CDCs in that location to help us out. So that is that's in addition to the program, and not that doesn't take away from this. It just really supplements that.
Okay, so we'll still have 15 people from this HHI initiative.
Yes.
And then you'll have a separate group of people that you're going to fund another way.
Yes.
To support areas that may not have a up and running CDC at the moment.
Correct.
Okay. Do you have, before I go to the committee, do you have a list of areas that you intend to dispatch those individuals to assist areas that may not have a functioning CDC at the moment?
So as you all have probably heard, economic development is adding these neighborhood, I'm not quite sure what economic development is calling them, but these neighborhood-based folks that are based on the city planning boundary lines. That is what we are going to do as well to match that, so that we will have a group of people across departments that are, geolocated. Where we don't have CDCs, that is where we're gonna add pressure to. So essentially, when if we don't have the traditional CDC there, then we can have this group of more flexible folks that are not attached to a CDC but are attached directly to City Hall that can be deployed to that area. So it is a nimble group. So there's not this is a forever thing. It's a nimble group that can kind of flex where and when it needs to.
Got it. So will you be coming back to us to ask for a funding appropriation to pay for these folks? Or?
I will not.
Okay. No. Where would they come from? How are you going to pay for those folks?
Yeah. So it'll be through our CDBG admin cap this year.
Okay. Got it.
Our hope is to show proof of concept and hopefully identify other ways to potentially do that next year. But we're gonna go ahead and pilot it this year.
Okay. Can you get us a listing of the current HHI representatives and the CDC that they're
Absolutely.
that they're housed at?
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you. Go to the committee for questions. Councilman McCormick.
Thank you, Chairman. Good morning, Director. How are we doing?
Morning.
Sometimes we don't say good morning and how are you doing enough.
It's fine.
On this table. Good to see you. Thank you, Chair. I appreciate you being here today, and I understand, Chair, to the Director, this was a council-driven program, and it's in the early days, and And my questions are not reflective of the hardworking folks in our CDCs. I came from a CDC. I know the importance of that work. But I'm just curious, Chair to the Director, do we have metrics per district, or however we define these, as to how many homes have been engaged, how many people have been engaged? Do we have those metrics, Chair to the Director?
Through the chair, yes, we do have those numbers, and I'm happy to provide those.
Okay.
Each of the CDC contracts for community engagement specialists come with a 2,000 minimum touch point
Okay.
for homes. So part of what they do are that door to door.
Okay.
Now, as you know, in your time here, the community engagement specialists have been deployed to do sort of whatever is needed to be done. So whether that is, census, whether that is,
Yeah.
PPE for COVID,
Yep. Yeah.
these are the folks that have been doing that.
So I guess that's Director to the Chair to the Director. That's kind of my where I'm going with this, in the sense that, and again, I know that these folks, this is no reflection on them. They work hard. They do what they're told to do, right? But my concern here is that exactly because of that, because of, quite frankly, their placement within CDCs. Again, came from a CDC, love our CDCs, fight for them every day. This is nothing about CDCs. But are they mixed in with kind of the general work of the CDC and kind of not really as pointed as could be when it comes to code enforcement, but also that light touch of Mrs. Ramirez, like, can we help you get resources for that roof that you need? So I guess, Chair to the Director, do you like this program?
I love this program.
You do,
through the
okay.
chair.
As it is situated today, through the chair.
I see where there are ways for us to improve the program.
Okay.
And part of that is adding this additional layer. I do not want to take away this critical position that has been used by the CDCs that is contracted with us to perform a specific task of doing those touches and getting folks into our pipeline. Believe that is absolutely necessary, but I don't think that is sufficient as it stands right now. What the program needs and what the program is getting now is the time and attention. There is a strong manager in place, and there is a strong structure in place now that hasn't existed in this current format.
Okay.
So we have a North Star.
Okay. Okay.
And with that, and with our current leadership, I am confident that we will be able to do what the program intended and beyond that.
I appreciate that. And Director, I'll tell you, I've got a lot of trust in you. I mean, I think you have critically looked at all these systems and made changes and made hard decisions across your department and across your folks. So I really do appreciate that response, that you're really taking a hard look at this. Last thing, Chair to the Director, I'll just say that, and for the table as well, one of the biggest things I worry about in Ward 3 when it comes to housing are folks that are left behind. And so for someone who buys a house and renovates it and flips it, or in a bad way, there's folks that move in and create a beautiful home and live in it and love it, God bless. But for the seniors, especially in my ward, that are low income or low to mod income, that have been in the neighborhood for a long time and don't know how to access resources for that heater or for that roof, feel not heard because of they see houses around them selling for $500,000.
Yeah.
Some of them reach my office, which is great, and every single time I tell my assistant, myself, that's a priority to make sure that furnace gets done or that roof gets done. My concern is the folks that we don't know about. And so I really view this program as a way, and I'm specific to Ward 3 right now, but I'm sure others, I'm just reflecting on my own experience, right? As a way to really add a layer to reach folks who are afraid, and we get folks that said, I didn't want to call you, I didn't want to have to call you, and we always say, Chairman, never hesitate to call me. Every time you call me, it's a personal conversation between you. I'm not telling anybody about this. I'm not knocking on your neighbor's door and telling them that you called me. But for the folks that don't know how to reach, or do not want to reach, a proactive knock on the door to say, Mrs. Ramirez, how's everything going? Are there any concerns you have? Are you aware of these programs? I think it'd go a really long way. So kind of just really upping that proactiveness, I think would be great. So, but I appreciate your comments on how you're looking to really hone in on the metrics of the program. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And if I'm not mistaken, part of what was one of the responsibilities of the HHI person was to do just that.
Yeah.
Is to interact, not only reach out to them and, chat with them about maybe the exterior conditions, but also help point them in a direction where they can receive help. And I know past HHI representatives who worked in Ward 10, not just Ward 10, but through Famicos and Collinwood, Greater Collinwood, that was part of their task. And I know the directors there, would meet with them and make sure that they were
Yep.
doing those work. But we need to hone in on that because
That's it.
now more than ever, that is something that is of much importance to a lot of people, and especially as Councilman narrated about his ward, in the movement that is happening in his ward and other wards across the city as well.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. And yeah, exactly right. And that's, again, these folks work hard. I just want to make sure that the CDC, again, I say this with all love, isn't saying the next 3 days I need you to work on the park programming.
Right.
Because that's what we need.
Right.
Like, well, no, that's not why you're there, right? So just kind of being able to streamline that. Thank you.
You got it. Councilman Harsh, then Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So through the chair to the director, how many people are currently employed in this program? What's the current staff number?
I believe we have 13 in this program, Councilman, through the chair.
Okay, and through the chair, how many open positions are there?
2,
So through the chair, the goal is 15?
correct.
Okay. Through the chair, is that supposed to be aligned with the new number of wards, or was it always 15?
It's always 15.
Yeah,
Okay.
this does predate me, but.
Okay, we never
but
had
yes.
17?
No.
Okay. Okay.
And those folks were split, so there were some
Yeah.
that were split,
Right.
that are
So,
shared. Mhm.
Mr. Chair, when I got him hired on at the Stockyard Clark Fulton Brooklyn Center CDC, Scooby-Doo as we called it, in 2000,
that.
in 2000 and, I don't know, 9, 10, something like that. We were doing something about the concentrated inspection areas. Phil Starr with CSU and former Council President Jay Westbrook had put together this strategy to do code enforcement through the CDCs with the idea that it was a softer touch than the city doing code enforcement because the CDC could send out a letter and it wasn't the government, and the idea was it would be less intimidating. And we had that all set up, and that was chugging away, and then HUD decided that CDBG money could not be allocated to CDCs for code enforcement because we weren't certified housing inspectors and we weren't allowed to do code enforcement. And I brought this up no less than 100 times in the 2.5 years I've been here because HUD could have changed that rule and allowed CDCs to go back to doing code enforcement, but HUD decided not to change that rule. But it decimated the housing staff at CDCs, and because CDCs couldn't get code enforcement money from CDBG, CDCs let most of their housing staff go. And the Healthy Homes Initiative came up sort of as a response to that. At the time, Environmental Health Watch, Kim Foreman and crew, were starting the earliest work on lead in the latest iteration of raising awareness of the problems of lead poisoning. This is right before Rachel Dissel did her huge Pulitzer-winning, I think, expose on lead poisoning in Cleveland. And we were trying to figure out how to tackle that problem. And so we started going door to door in Clark Fulton, talking to people about lead to see what the reception would be like. And we found it to be better than we expected, Mr. Chair. We actually found people letting us into their homes, showing us around their apartments, where we could take a look. I'd already been a lead risk assessor at that point. I knew what I was looking at. And we found people willing to talk about this. And I remember Nina Holzer was involved in the very, very beginning of this. I think she was with the city at the time, or maybe she was still with Neighborhood Progress, because there was a transition period. But Healthy Homes Initiative was sort of born out of that effort with an idea of, can we put people in the CDCs with the cooperation of the city? And I think I was the Healthy Homes person for Stockyard, Clark Fulton, Brooklyn Center for a little while. And so I'm just saying all of that because I do have some experience with this, some intimate experience with this. And I would like to see the data because door knocking is hard, it's intimidating, a lot of people don't like it, and a lot of people aren't good at it. But if you like it and you're good at it, it's magic. The problem is we don't always hire people who like it and are good at it. And that could mean that we have people that don't do a good job of door knocking. And my experience, Mr. Chair, with this program is that it would not be hard to manipulate the data you're giving back to the city. It would not be hard. Nobody can really verify how many doors you knocked on. That's kind of a trust issue. Nobody can really verify how many people you talked to. We can measure the number of people who take advantage of programs that are funded, because programs that are funded that spend money keep track of where they spend their money. But we have a hard time, I think, tracking what work is being done. And I'm sure there are, and I'm not sure, I know that there are good HHI people that do noble, commendable work. I'm sure there are also some who don't. And Mr. Chairman, I've also voiced the idea over the last couple of years that maybe this program needs to change again dramatically. In fact, I've proposed in the back rooms, and I'll say it out here in the table, that maybe these folks should be transitioned over to building and housing to be the exterior code enforcement specialists that Director Martin O'Toole recently got approval from the union to create, where we can now have people that do exterior home inspections that are a lower level of inspector certification than the home inspectors that we have. And I'm wondering if maybe it isn't time for this program to alter one more time to meet the needs of residents first and provide that labor pool. If Director Martin O'Toole is struggling to hire the inspectors we need to make residents first successful, and if we think that HHI is potentially not living up to its potential in all 15 areas, then maybe we need to consider moving these people over to building and housing and giving them the opportunity to apply for those positions to get way into the weeds. Currently, they're non-union. They're at-will employees of the CDC funded by community development. If they were to go over to building and housing, I think they would have to apply to the union. I think they would have to get a union card, open them up to pensions, and I think better health care, I'm not sure. But I worry that HHI is a project that can be manipulated at a very minute level. And while good people with the right idea can do wonders, it can also be, we can also obscure the outcomes in these positions. And that's something that I worry about. I would love to see the data on what they're doing, but I'm sure it's going to look great. I'm sure the data will come back looking beautiful. I don't think we would get the data if it showed problems, right? And I think that that's easily controlled at the CDC level. And I don't say this to disparage. I say this because I worked in the CDCs, and I've seen, I know what people can do. I think we need to question what the best use of our resources are. And I think that exterior code enforcement, which HHI was a growth, HHI was a mutation of our attempt to do exterior code enforcement because we couldn't do it, so we did HHI instead. Now that we have these new positions where we can do simply exterior code enforcement, I wonder if maybe we should go back to that. And so I'm putting this all out there, not because I'm going to vote against this or try to stop HHI renewal from happening. It's the ship has sailed for this year's decision, but I want to plant this thought in people's heads because I think there are probably 15, or I think there are 13 and potentially 15 good employees that have skills that we could use, and we could potentially use them more judiciously and to a better effect for the people. And I think that once these city wards align to 15, and there are 15 people, we could assign one per ward. And I think that would be an absolutely appropriate way to run this. Every council ward would have one person that can do exterior inspection. You can do it routinely. You can do it mechanically. However, that gets decided. But I wanted to share all this because I think it's something we do need to consider. It's a $1 million allocation, but I think that potentially the Residents First legislation could take priority over this. We also, Mr. Chair, have a robust, well-funded nonprofit network of people that are also working on the lead issue, and they should be out going door to door, and they should be out attracting people and reaching out to people and figuring out how to get inside. And potentially it's time to just mutate HHI one more time to the changing needs of the city. So that's the end of my rant. Thank you, Chairman.
All right, thank you, Councilman Harsh. Points well taken. Councilwoman Jenny Spencer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to build off both what Councilman McCormick spoke to and also Councilman Harsh. And also the director, just to clarify a few things in my mind. First, through the chair, when we talked about how these positions have been redeployed in various ways and taken off of their primary function, to just respond to Councilman McCormick's point, I don't always believe, I think it's primarily been the city doing that, not the CDCs. So for example, the massive vacancy survey that was citywide vacancy survey that was going on a year ago, they were taken off. These healthy home specialists, I believe 3 or 4 months of last year, if not more, were dedicated to the vacancy survey. They were not doing their primary healthy homes work during that time period to do that massive lift of that Western Reserve Land Conservancy Building and Housing Survey. That's just one of the examples. The director provided a couple of others. So it's an interesting question of what it would look like for these positions to fulfill their potential, because they have not been given that much of a runway to do that. But it's a very, very intriguing question. I wanted to also point out a little bit that when Councilman Harsh references the data, so this is a question through the chair to the director, I think the data would, I believe, exist in a fairly transparent form, which is, it's my understanding that the specialists have to use the Neighborly platform to upload their impact, their results, the applications they're supporting, their goal is to support residents in getting applications submitted for various programs to get access to help. And it is my understanding that they have to do that through the Neighborly platform. So first of all, through the chair, wanting to clarify if that is your understanding, Director.
So we are transitioning our data systems, but I believe it's Survey 123 is the actual system that they use. But yes, we do have a system. We are. It is probably best that we keep the system that the Western Land Conservancy survey used from the past year. So we may plug into that system just to have consistency and to be able to update that housing survey instead of doing a point in time, to be able to do that over the course of just regularly over the course of time.
Yeah. So to clarify, thank you. To clarify through the chair, I think I'm talking about two different platforms then. There's one that healthy home specialists are using in theory in the field to survey these 2,000 door exterior inspections. So actually, this is something I think would be a productive exercise to ask for Joe Titron's assistance. How's that been going? How many? We know that they got pulled out for the Western Reserve survey. We know that happened, but if I understood correctly through the chair, they're supposed to be doing 2,000 doors a year on their own in these rolling inspection cycles to make it through their whole service area coverage. That sounds like it's through whatever platform this 123. So I think that should be an easily available data set to see how much have they actually been able to do. But separate than that, what I more highly prize of these positions is the high-touch resident interactions where they are sitting down with people, helping them get their documents together, listening to what they need, supposed to have a highly professionalized, highly accurate knowledge of home repair programs, not just the city's, but everybody's. And I pray that that is the case, that these 13 going on 15 specialists have that level of technical knowledge. That's the only reason to do this, is that they know these programs in and out so well, and that when a resident approaches them with a need, they can match that resident to the appropriate program or programs without giving them the runaround. There is nothing more demoralizing for a resident who is in need to be given the runaround, to be referred to 5 different agencies, 3 different programs, 5 different bureaucratic functions, you name it. Anyway, the point is, it is my understanding that the specialists would upload stuff for those individual resident interactions through Neighborly. So I just think there is data available, and maybe it would be a healthy exercise to look at that data. So I would put that out there as a request to understand the the Healthy Homes outputs. And then just to reflect on what Councilman Harsh said about our residents first and the needs, I think you're referring to those property maintenance inspector positions. This is not totally on point to why director's here, but have we even seen those posted yet? I don't know. All right, well, so putting a pin in that.
I believe so.
Okay, I'd like
If
to.
I'm not mistaken, Madam Councilwoman, that they were doing the search internally first, and they
Got
want to
it.
go externally
Okay.
for the positions.
All right.
And we received the org chart from Building the Housing. Joe Titron did send that out to everyone.
Okay, all righty. So I think, so my mind is not closed to what Councilman Harsh is proposing as well. So the last thing I would just say while the director's at the table is, while I love having you, Director, at the table through the chair, I think that we as council people don't have a relationship, or only a few of us do, with Brett Parsons, who is the new manager. And there's also a bit of a rebranding, is my understanding. So for purposes of this legislation, we're calling it Healthy Homes, but I don't even think internally staff call it Healthy Homes. So I do think that us having a relationship with the manager could be very productive, us knowing, in their own words, how this program functions, what is being conveyed to these specialists, all of that could be very beneficial. I have had I can't remember how Brett reached out to me, but I've met with Brett and my Healthy Home specialist, but there seemed to me to be a lot of rebranding and rethinking going on. So I would just say that next time we talk about Healthy Homes, it might be I would recommend having whomever is responsible for the program present themselves as well, just for us to know them and for us to have a better handle on what's being put out there. So, all right, that was not a lot of questions, that was a lot of comments, but those were my thoughts. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Gotcha. Thank you, Councilwoman. Great points. So what I'm going to ask is that we also, if your department, along with Brett, can put together, we've had presentations in the past regarding Healthy Homes, where they can put together some statistics to show kind of the work that's been done over the last year or so. Maybe a process flow chart about, how they, in the way they do things, in the community. That would be helpful. And so if we can have that before next week's finance meeting, that would be great, to give us time to kind of go through that, maybe develop any questions that may arise, after you send that information over. But having that information is good. In addition to that listing that I asked about earlier of the field positions versus the 2 vacant positions, and where where everyone is also housed at which CDC, okay? Because I know for Mecos, they had 2, and they were working through 7, 9, and 10, do 3 different communities. So hoping that one of those other incoming folks can be a help for a CDC like that's housing, that covers 3 or 4 wards, but only have 2 HHI individuals working there. So let's talk to that a bit more, all right? Councilwoman House Jones.
Yes, thank you. Through the chair to the director, good morning. So actually, the chairman kind of took the question I had about showing the results, you know what I'm saying, of what the team has been doing, which I think will be very helpful. Because I'm always learning about new programs, services, you know, connections and things of that nature. And the more we're able to know the information to be able to share with community members, I think the better off we all are going to be. My question is, in looking at the evolution of, you know, the HHI Pro Healthy Homes Initiative program, what work has been done to just really try to get thoughts, opinions, or the lived experiences of the HHI specialists themselves? Like, where is that, what role has that played in the evolution of HHI now?
Through the chair, that's actually at the center of it. So part of that strong leadership that Brett Parsons is providing this program now are many, many more touch points with the community engagement specialist. She has regularly scheduled meetings with them as a cohort. She also goes out to the CDCs and is sitting there learning about them. As we recreate this program to make it work for each of our neighborhoods and their unique needs, those folks are right there at the center of these conversations. So they are helping to improve this process. They're absolutely central to this next phase.
And then as a follow-up, the chair to the director, in this new iteration, you know, of the program, what's the ideal engagement, you know, between, you know, specialists, CDCs, council person? And I know every community is different, but are there some, you know, ideal engagement, team collaboration opportunities that we would like, or, you know, just from your office that you would like to see?
Through the chair, Councilwoman, yes, absolutely. We want to engage a whole heck of a lot more than what we have been doing. But it was clear to me that doing that within the existing structure was not going to be adequate, because these folks have embedded themselves and you know, rightfully so, are a part and are relied on by the CDCs. So by adding additional folks, their role is to do just what you talked about, to be that neighborhood person, to be the connection, yes, between the CDC, but also to our council members, right? They're going to those block club meetings. They're going to your regular ward meetings. They're you know, taking applications, and they're doing soft handoffs to our intake process. Right, so that is where I guess what I'm trying to say is, with the current structure, having more and deeper interactions is probably not a reasonable expectation, which is why we're adding that layer to really bridge those gaps and bring everything together.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman House Jones. As we go along, we need to find let's talk more about, you know, just kind of maybe check-ins with maybe members. I think that'll help as well. You know, even with there's just a meeting with the council people, the CDC, and the HHI persons to kind of, whether it's monthly or some point, so that we kind of know what's happening, right, and kind of where they are. I think that'd be very helpful. And so before Monday, let's talk about that, figure out what that
And
looks
if
like.
can I just add in there, I think if there's a way, I know we are talking about all like this open data source stuff, even be able, you know, for utilizing the investment in the systems that we are having, so that we don't, you know, sometimes I feel like I'm always on information overload, but it would be nice if there's a reference point to be just, just going to see like how many homes, have, been able to get connected to services. Has that been connected with any violations from building and housing? Like ways that we can see the interconnections between what one department is doing versus the other versus trying to do the text message and call and emails. Like it gets to be a bit much. And so just having, just some check-ins in addition to, some of the person-to-person, in-person engagements, also utilizing these upgraded systems that we are supposed to be utilizing so that not just council members, the public can actually see. Because again, we have to make this accessible to community members
Absolutely.
in a way that it has just not been, thus far, right? So however we are able to do it and make it a simple and easy process, click here, that would be much appreciated.
Director.
Through the chair, Councilwoman, absolutely could not agree anymore. We are seeking to get all of our online systems to be able to talk to one another, and the power that will be able to come from that, the synergy of all of that data. Data is just numbers, but what we're seeking is information. And what we want to do is we want to track. Does this lead to this, leads to this, leads to what's the actual outcome? And so that's something that we are talking about very seriously. And as we are all working to upgrade our IT systems and bring on this open data, these are all conversations that we've been having. Chairman, I did want to also note that the development cluster on a monthly basis is going to different neighborhoods where we are having, I don't think it's been with you all yet, but just this last week we were in the metro area, in Clark Fulton, Stockyards, and so we had the community engagement specialist, the CDC. We had some members from CMP there and their relationship managers, as well as directors and members from the administration were there and present, as was Councilwoman Santana. So that is one touch point where from a, not just community development, but from a development cluster standpoint, you've got planning, building and housing, economic development, and you've got the directors and oftentimes our assistant directors are there as well with the community engagement specialists, with the council person, and with the CDC executives. So that is another layer that we have also recognized and hold that space for, and we look forward to coming to the rest of the neighborhoods.
All right, sounds good. Any further questions from the committee? All right, so you're gonna work on that, that presentation, we'll call it, before Monday to kind of show us the process, who's who, what's what, the work that they've been doing, some of their numbers. And I'm also going to ask Councilman Harsh and Spencer we'll work with Joe Tytron and work with you to figure out, we want to get the two with the department and Brett to kind of really hone in on operations and get their thoughts and considerations and questions kind of embedded in the process as you begin to, think about overhaul of the HHI program. Again, this was and still is a council funded and requested initiative, and so I want to make sure that the council voices are fully a part of the process, and as you work through taking the program to the next level. All right. Okay. Any further questions? All right. So no further questions. Ordinance number 368-2024 stands approved. Thank you. So city planning is not here. We have a designation, Jesse Owen House as a landmark, but President Griffin is requesting this. I'll ask the committee, I don't have a problem with reading this and moving it forward, even though planning is not here, because this came at the request of for President Griffin to designate, no, this is only stop, to designate Jesse Owens House as a Cleveland landmark. I'm not a, Councilman McCormick?
Thank you, Chair. No issue with moving it forward, but this is an important one. I would have loved for them to be here to have a presentation.
Presentation,
I mean,
absolutely.
So I don't want to hold it up, but at the same time, I'm like, this
Yeah.
this is a really important one.
Absolutely. I don't know why they aren't here. Joe, Mr. Titron, have you heard from Planning at all? Reason why they're not here?
Can you just relieve it to finance?
It's
It
only
doesn't go,
finance.
it's just only here. Yeah, only comes here.
I'm just saying, can it be,
We could have a hearing at finance.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, can it be, that's what
Oh.
I'm saying, can it be reassigned to finance? I know it was assigned to here, if it can be, if it can be just pushed to finance, so that way the coordination can happen and the presentation for the public can actually see.
Yeah.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
before you answer that question, I would do just about anything to promote Jesse Owens' legacy. It's probably one of the most important things we can do in Cleveland. Does anybody own this house? Like, is it somebody's house right now? Like, I do have questions. Like, I mean, I understand that President Griffin supports this, so that's like a big, clear indicator. But I mean, maybe relieving is the right thing to do, but maybe we actually do have a couple questions, and maybe they should be here. I mean, it would seem that somebody ought to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying, what I'm saying is, again, not to pass it, just have this piece be a reassigned to finance. That's all.
Gotcha.
That's just my
And so,
suggestion.
in the ordinance, it does state that the owner of the Jesse Owens house has been properly notified and has consented in writing to the proposed designation. So they have received, and I doubt President Griffin would ask for a piece to be introduced and heard if the owner of the house has not been consulted. So the ordinance does say that they have been consulted and has agreed consented in writing to the proposed designation of Jesse Owens House. You know, I don't want to hold this. I would like to move it forward and also ask planning to come back to us or come to finance and give a presentation. You know, yes. Yeah, it just comes to us. Designation doesn't go to Finance Committee. Landmarks.
Chair,
Yes.
I guess, is there a rush on this? I mean, do you
No.
want to kick it 2 weeks just to make sure it's got its full?
We can.
Unless
Yeah.
there's a reason that it needs to move for some event or,
And that
Something.
was my my thought.
yeah, to kick
Okay.
it 2 weeks?
I was initially, but I know that this is something that he was looking to get done. As a matter of fact, he's
Okay.
calling me now. So, well, we can. We can.
Oh, wait, hold on, the council president's calling me.
All right. So we're just trying to figure out whether there's a time issue on this piece or not for them.
Mr. Chair, I 100% agree with the sentiment. Jesse Owens' house should be a national landmark, and Jesse Owens' contribution to humanity,
Yes.
we should never lose sight of this, and I'm just going to fill TV time. Jesse Owens is one of the greatest athletes in the history of America, in the history of Earth. To walk into Germany in front of Hitler and shove that Aryan nonsense right down his throat in front of him and just put to bed this notion of anyone having ethnic superior, unbelievably. And Jesse just walked in there and just put it to bed.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, the council president would like it passed today. And I guess, I mean, we could bring someone to finance.
That's
even
what I
though
was
the
saying, yeah.
legislation isn't at finance, but
Yeah.
we could have them do a presentation.
Yes, and so, okay, so my thoughts were on track with the president. So we'll open up to committee for questions. What is it? 1, 2, 3, 4. We still got quorum. Is there any questions from the
I don't want to be this person. I do not want to be this person, Chair. I am going to be that person. So, yeah, no, this is more on like process and like for as much as things are a priority, then like, can we not have anybody say anything and present? I just.
So if I can, Chair.
Sure,
I mean,
Councilman.
to the point, usually Landmarks is here and they have a whole presentation and they
Yeah.
have supporting supporters, and so I don't know where that breakdown was.
So
but-
I just, and again, I know do what we do, and
No,
this is how
and Councilwoman,
we
I hear you
operate.
loud and clear. You
Whatever.
know, this is not like other pieces we get where they are requested by the department. So you absolutely, the department should be here. The piece that they have asked for, right? But
Okay.
this is
Mr. Chair.
not a,
It's,
Got an update for you.
this is not, you know, like the typical pieces that we would
Right,
hear,
right,
is my thought here. Councilman McCormick.
Mr. Chairman, the council president would like to hold this piece until your next meeting.
All right, thank you. Ordinance number 261-2024 will be held. Thank you. Seeing no further ordinances to be heard, and again, ordinance number 161-2024 was held as well. This committee is adjourned. Thank you.
Council president just asked me to hold it.
Was this something they don't even know about? Because we're